Witnessed a wave of financial reports reflecting difficult trading conditions worldwide for fast fashion retailers lately, and many of them have been deciding to reduce the numbers of their physical shops. What's the reason behind this, and is the opening of e-commerce stores the only solution, or could it even be the problem? Joining us now in the studio is Alex Shutter, partner at Oliver Wyman. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much.
So first of all, how much of the, I suppose, can we call it a recession in fast fashion is down to the pandemic?
So fast fashion has always relied on its kind of integrated model. It's relied on having the ability to give consumers very, very short life cycle products that they can get quite quickly, and with this integration with their own stores. And they rely very heavily historically on these stores to give them literally that fast feedback to get through. If you look now though, e-commerce has been taking off enormously around the world, but also China led the world in that historically. And now actually with all of the pandemic, that's been accelerating rapidly in other countries. And as a result, this trend was going to happen anyway, to be honest, but it's just been forced through by the latest pandemic.
Do the financial figures also expose perhaps an underlying vulnerability in the whole business model?
So I think if you step back to the consumer, right, the consumer still wants fast fashion, right? I think that desire is still strongly there. It's brought new business models there. Like we're used to the sort of the very famous brand names in fast fashion, the big machine models. But actually now there's a large number of very small players, you know, your little Wang Hong players or others who've come up, and they're bringing fast fashion to the market. The consumer doesn't care. The consumer still sees quote unquote fast fashion, right? But it's just not what we're seeing from what we're used to seeing from the big brand name players.
Does that indicate perhaps that is it just a Chinese phenomenon? Do Chinese consumers have less customer loyalty to these sorts of brands?
Customer loyalty has in general been on the decline globally. I think it's been accelerated by the number of business models that you have in China and the plethora of very high quality offerings that are coming in online. And we can talk about the live streaming plays that come in, also just the broader role of influencers bringing their own brands to market. And that's just given, honestly, access for consumers to many, many more models than they've had to previously.
It might be worth mentioning that Uniqlo is one of the players that's actually shown some resilience in that market. It's had very strong sales, particularly here in China. Do they have a secret? Is there something special about them?
So a couple of things. So historically, some players haven't expanded quite so many stores, right? So haven't historically been quite as exposed to that, what we used to the rapid like-for-like growth, first of all. And then secondly, if we rewind, look over the past year, people haven't needed quite such fast fashion. Right, you know, if you look at some of the trends within apparel that have grown, it's been around athleisure, homewares, etc., which are players where, you know, players such as that have historically had a bit more presence, less presence in terms of the pure fast fashion.
People saying that fast fashion, has to go high end possibly in order to survive. Is that just a global thing, or is that a China thing, or what can we expect there? I
mean, this is not a high gross margin industry. You know, if you go too cheap, you just can't make the model work. With what in China are very high rental, even so. If you try and go too high though, I think these businesses are going to start to struggle. I think they still have to find the right midpoint whereby consumers are still happy to keep buying, wear it for a certain length of time and then continue to get into the game.
Is there a way back for some of these companies in China, or do you think that they're just going to have to adapt to a market that has fundamentally changed forever?
I mean, absolutely. All of them have been investing quite heavily in trying to make their new omni-channel experience work quite well. They will all, as is experience in the rest of the world, have to resize and find the right store portfolio. I think that's a critical point, and we see that with many of our clients as well. They'll have to adjust, but certainly there's still a strong place for them in the market.
Alex Shutter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.